Notes. Thank you. Action. Alright, see if we get interrupted by customers. I wouldn't mind if we did, sell some scooters. Got my little short shorts on. What's going on, everybody? My name is Regan Thompson. You are on the Syndicate Street Store YouTube, and you are currently tuned into Scooter Deck Wars. So today, going into battle on this ferocious battlefield of the street terrain, we've got the AO Quadrum and we've got the Flavor Scooters Jasper signature deck, so the Jabber Wolf deck. There's a lot of things I'm going to go into, all the specs of the two decks, so I did have to write down some notes just to make sure I got it all 100% for each of them. So for the length, we've got 22 inches for the Quadrum, whereas the Jasper Sig actually came in at 23 inches. So straight off the bat, preferably the longer the better if you're riding anything like mine, or everyone these days is really trying to get that long deck just because it feels so much better, more foot room, more pop and stuff like that. Which does bring me to the next thing, is the foot space. So we've got 15.1 on the Quadrum, but 16.1 foot space on the Jabber. So yeah, obviously longer deck. This one's got longer foot space. They both, the head tube comes into the deck obviously about the same as the brake does on the back. But yeah. Okay, but this is where the Quadrum starts winning the battle. It is 5.2 inches wide, whereas the Jasper signature is 4.8. So it sounds very small, but it is quite considerable. So where this is 4.8 on the top, and it's a true 4.8 wide on the bottom as well. So at least what you can feel on the top is as much 50 room as you've got on the bottom. So that's good to know. Whereas the Quadrum being 5.2 on the top, it's actually only 5 inches wide underneath. Now me, preferably, I'd still rock that, because the extra inch in the length doesn't faze me too much. So yeah, in case, I probably should have mentioned from the start, I'm a little bit biased because I'm riding the Quadrum myself. So, I had the option to ride the Jasper as I owned. This is my Jasper signature deck, and yeah, had the option between the two, and I did choose the Quadrum. So you already know what my thoughts are, really. But anyway, we'll go through the specs. Yeah, so 5.2 on top, 5 inches on the bottom, whereas this is 4.8 on top and 4.8 on the bottom. Now, the head tube angle, 82.5 for the Jasper. So, it's all the decks are kind of chopping and changing nowadays, the 82.5 to 83 degree. I'd always liked 82.5, but I'm rocking the 83 degree head tube angle like on the Quadrum. And where that's really good is because this being a shorter deck, 22 inches compared to the 23 inches, with the head tube angle up a little bit, it's kind of like giving you back some of that room. It obviously doesn't make any more foot room and stuff, but like the overall ratio, the angle of your scooter, and the pop that you get, you can kind of win back some of that pop that you lose from having a shorter deck. Compatibility, same head tube and stuff up the front, integrated headset goes in, but at the back, what I really like is I don't run 125mm wheels, but this brake can take 125mm wheels. But since I don't run 125, I run 110 black pearl wheels, like what's on the back of this Jabber. There's like multiple slots where you can slide your brake back down, so you get more foot room as you push the brake right up against your wheel. So props to AO, that's rather innovative. I really like that. Whereas the Jasper, that's straight up 110mm wheels. You try and get any bigger than that, you've got to do some customizing at the back, bending the brake or cutting the deck and re-drilling holes and stuff like that. A bit annoying. Jasper's awesome, but definitely just stick to your 110s on the Jasper if you don't want to customize it. The square front. The Quadrum does not have a square front, whereas the Jasper nearly has a square front. So yeah, I really like square fronts, because I like doing nose grinds, not a crook, not an over crook, like a parallel nose grind. I used to do them a lot on my district deck because they had a nice square front section, and a prototype deck that I was riding for a while for another company had a nice square front, and that was awesome. So you know, out of the Quadrum and the Jabba definitely wins for the square front. What have we got next? Square back. All right. So they both have square backs. This has got 5.2. This has got 4.8. So for 5.0s, obviously the Quadrum. Now, the back of the Quadrum is all welded up, and then you've got to put your ratchet in on the side. That's annoying. I'll talk about that later, but it's good. When I say annoying, I just mean it's annoying to try and tighten up your axle. But I mean, the Jabba, unless you actually, because of the way they've done that, tightening the axle from the very outside instead of the internal wall, it does make it. You got to put in a bit of work drilling out the back and putting in a new mushroom axle for the back. That's what I do on like any square back deck. I never run an axle from all the way out the outside. That's not how I do it. But yeah. If you don't care about your wheel being loose, then do it, but I like having my wheel tight, so yeah. But anyway, square back, yeah, they both have a square back. So they both got a tick for square back. It's awesome. This one just wins a little bit, I guess, because it's wider and there's welded on plates at the back, so significantly stronger. At the end of the day, they're both not deck ends like the Proto or the Aztec, so once they wear, they're not replaceable, so that's a big flaw in the rear end of scooter decks that I've been noticing. Just waiting for that plane to fly over in case you can hear that in the camera. Next up is the blunt space. There's definitely more blunt space on the AO Quadrum than there is on the Jabba. I actually found that the Jabbas were a little bit more difficult to lock into blunts just because of how small that blunt space is, and I've actually spoke to some other people on the Jabbas as well. It's like the same dimensions as the flavor up the front, and yeah, it is not the best for locking into blunts on a skate park quarter. But say you're in the streets, if you want a blunt slide on a street ledge, I actually think you got more chance on the Jabba or anything with the small blunt space, because you get like right on the end of the ledge where it's all nice and waxed and stuff like that. So there's a bit of science or whatever you want to call it that goes into, you know, it's all circumstantial depending on the blunt you're doing. You're trying to lock into a blunt, you're trying to slide a blunt. Is there coping there? Is there angle on the ledge, or is it, you know, a straight street ledge? Changes it. But for blunt space, the Quadrum, you lock in easier because it's got a bigger blunt space. That's facts. AO Quadrum wins again. It's got a really big deck, 5.2 wide compared to the 4.8. So, and you can like physically see like the big dip in the deck. It's amazing to stand on. So over something so wide, obviously the concave even feels bigger, whereas something thinner, 4.8, you don't doesn't get a lot of love for the concave. I honestly think the Flavor Awakenings need to adjust their concave and get that shit curvy, because that's the best feeling. Like, it really helps for 50s and 5.0s having that little bit of curve, because your foot like sits on the, you know, the ball of your foot hangs over the edge of that like corner that it makes. So yeah, whereas a flat deck, just not feeling the love. So the more curve on the top, the better. AO Quadrum got 2 ticks for that, whereas the Jabba actually got an X. The weight, the Jabba obviously just wins on the weight. It's so much lighter. The Quadrum is like a beefy ass fat thing, which is very rare for me. If you know me or have watched me over the years, you would see I'm always riding like the lightest variation of anything that I can afford or get my hands on, just because I'm a weight freak and I'm tiny and I'm weak and I still can't double whip even though I've been riding for years. So yeah, actual weights are 1.5 kilograms for the Jabba and 1.6 kilograms for the Quadrum. So yeah, you can see like a really beefy head tube, and just, yeah, I mean, I think if you put it down to head tube test, this head tube versus this head tube, the Quadrum would probably last more 20 stair drops than Jabber, but don't know, I don't ride that way, so I don't have to worry about strength really, so I could drill the hell out of this Quadrum head tube and lose some weight, and it would be still strong enough for the tiny little things that I ride. Topics of discussion: 5.2 versus the 4.8, and why people say like, oh, it's just such a micro measurement from 4.8 to 5.2 or from 4.5 to 5 and stuff like that. To me, it does really matter, and I do really feel it. I've stood on 4.5 wide decks and 4.8 decks and 5 decks and 5.2 decks, and I can tell you, even if the 50 space underneath is a little bit less, when you have something on top as wide as 5.2, it gives you that confidence. It really does give you that confidence to 50 on a bigger circular rail, or it just, your 50s really like, you step it up with your 50s on anything when you ride something that's 5.2 wide on the top. It's like amazing how much difference that tiny micro measurement actually makes, but it's just that feeling, and the deep concave, you are like on the deck, you feel one with it. It's amazing. So yeah, anyone who knows me knows that I've been pushing for years for scooter decks to be like 5.25 and 5.5 as like a standard. Like it's just silly that they're not that big. They're still, I feel like they're still so small. Even 5.2. You've seen my deck extensions, I go 6 wide and 50, yeah, 50's like crazy. I think it's safe to say that the Jasper looks so much better than the Quadrum. I love how the Quadrum rides, and that's what I'm riding, but for looks, it's just, but, you know, functionality over looks, obviously, and I stand behind that because, like, you know, I like the look of this more, but I ride this because for me it functions better. So, but yeah, don't like it. Jabber, you just can't tighten the back wheel if you run it stock. I get a drill bit that is a certain size, big enough to fit the head of a mushroom axle, and I drill it out all the way to the internal vertical walls. So you don't tighten it from the outside, take your axle out, get a big drill bit, drill it out, and then, yeah, tighten. Just a little normal Flavor Awakening axle, get that off your Flavor Awakening, and it does the job. That's how I do it, so I can have a dialed back wheel on a Jabber, or that's what I did do. Whereas this, the Quadrum, it's just like, to me, such a, you know, they've gone to this effort, and it's like such a basic design flaw to like sell it with a high tensile axle where you can't get most ratchets just don't fit in there. So maybe in America they're like, all their ratchets are a lot skinnier or something, but I've gone to the shops and can't find shit to like tighten it up, so I actually take this axle out and put in a mushroom axle, and then it's easy as, which just makes me think there should be plastic like this, there should be plastic in here, even though they've got big things welded at the back, they do still eventually cave in, and if you're doing bries or double whips and not getting it smashing on the corner, you can smash the corners of your deck in. That's unavoidable with construction like that anyway. Can't say it really rides like a 23, like I did notice this feeling shorter than the 23 because it obviously is, but I thought the head tube angle would make up for it. It didn't totally, but it does. So like if you're like, you know, worried that a 22 is too short for you, just remember it's 83 degrees, so it's like, it helps. It does help a lot. It's awesome. I'm really biased. I'm like double biased on this because Jasper is one of my best mates and I love him, and it's his signature deck, and I'm so happy for him, and it's awesome. And yeah, but then I'm also biased because I love the 5.2 and I'm riding this, so you know, I'm not going to go and say that Jasper is my pick when it's obviously not, because my pick is this, because this is my deck, but on my actual scooter I've got one of these. So, but you know, maybe the facts that I just divulged will help you decide on what scooter deck is good for you between the two. Really, they're both just as good as each other. This one's 23 long, which is freaking awesome and lighter. This one's 22 long, which is not as good, but it's 5.2 wide, which is like significantly more confidence and more room for 50s underneath. Yeah, I mean, I've been through it all. I'm not going to go through it all again. Thanks for watching. Let me know what deck you want to see next. I'm thinking we'll probably go through I've got the new Elite 5.0 decks coming into stock very soon, and we've also got more of the Urban Art Primo Evo decks, or if there's two decks that you want to see me go through the same way I went through these two in Scooter Deck Wars. Yeah. I'm Regan Thompson. You are tuned into Syndicate Street Store YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe, all that yada yada. Not really, you don't have to. Free shipping on all orders over $99 Australia-wide. $20 flat rate to New Zealand if you spend more than $200. All that stuff. Thanks for watching. Thanks for supporting our movement. Syndicate Street Store, taking back our industry one scooter at a time. Hope that's still filming. Otherwise I'll have to figure out where it stopped. Yes, still going. Hey, fuck.